Today on Gun Believable, we're taking a look at the Taurus Curve. Introduced in 2014, it was marketed as the gun you wear. With its snagless, sightless design, integrated belt clip, laser light combo, and literally curved frame, it's supposed to be perfect for everyday carry. Is it though? Let's find out. The Curve comes in a bright orange box, and it's curved too. Cute. Seeing the gun for the first time, the curvature looks wild, but I'm sad to say it's mostly an illusion. The straight lines on the back of the slide and the shape of this textured panel on the backstrap steer your brain to think it's bendier than it really is. Inserting a magazine gives you some perspective. They're just as straight as any other mags, and watching how they go in illustrates how Taurus just took a normal frame and added some material to create this shape. Quite a lot on the bottom left, plus a little on the center right. The Curve may help with comfort against the body, but the thickness added to create it somewhat offsets the concealment benefits. This thing's hideability is more attributable to its small footprint than the Curve. It's small, about 3/4 of an inch shorter than a Glock 43 in length and 1/2 an inch shorter in height, but it's noticeably thicker. In the hand, the curvature is much less noticeable than all the other features of the grip. It's thoroughly rounded and smooth, but just for aesthetics, not comfort. The thickness puts this thing in an awkward spot where it's too thick to feel svelte, but not thick enough to give you secure purchase. It basically feels like somebody took a 2x4 and sanded the corners way down. In my left hand, it feels worse, but not by much. It's a little weird having an air gap between my palm and the frame, but less strange than you might think. Taurus planned a left-handed version of this gun, but never made it. Can't imagine why. In either hand, the grip is super short. There's no way you're getting a pinky on it. The weight is reasonable for its size, coming in at 16 ounces flat, fully loaded. There's a divot on the left side for your thumb, and a divot on the right for your trigger finger to rest. I like that. It's perfectly placed for me, but I have very long fingers. Just below that is the activation button for the built-in light laser combo. It's not the easiest to activate, and it's a little awkward to find it and press it forward with your index finger. It's also not that sensitive. If you do it quickly, it won't always activate. Not something I'd want to be using under stress. The laser, like most gun lasers, is bright enough to be useful when you're shooting static, colorless targets at short distances in a dimly lit indoor range, but nowhere near bright enough to be reliably seen in other conditions. The light, well, let me show you. Here's the light from the Curve with fresh batteries. And here's the light from my cell phone. This light's basically for show. There's no slide stop lever, so the only way to lock it open is to rack the slide on an empty magazine. The slide's travel feels just okay, it's not that smooth, and you'll need a strong pinch on account of its small size and minimal texturing. When you pull it back, you'll notice something interesting. The barrel's moving. Unlike so many .380 pistols, this one's not blowback. It's recoil operated. Neat. We'll come back to that. The barrel has a, strange shape to it, with the flare at the end helping center it in the slide, and the way the tip is cut kinda looks like the slant brake on an AK. Some say it's meant to serve the same function, compensating for muzzle rise, but I don't think so. It's really short, and in a low-pressure cartridge like .380, it can't be doing much. I think it's just there to complete the rounded-off look. The gun comes with 2 mags, which hold 6 rounds each. They're well constructed, but their base plates are strange. Not only are they way thicker on the left side than the right to match the curve of the frame, they are the mag releases. This tab on the left side is what holds the mag in, and you pinch both sides to remove the mag from the gun. It takes a lot of force to get them out, actually, not something easy to do quickly. There is a magazine disconnect safety, so you can't pull the trigger without one inserted. The trigger has a strange, lengthened shape that prevents anything from getting caught behind it. The pull is less weird than the look. It's long, about 4.5 pounds, smooth-ish, not much of a wall before the break. The reset is short and audible, but not tactile. It's not a good trigger, but among this gun's other characteristics, it doesn't stand out as the biggest problem. Speaking of problems, the sights are non-existent. Seriously, there are no sights. To keep it totally snag-free, they just didn't include any. You're meant to look at these white lines on the back of the slide and somehow use them to line the gun up. I say horse feathers. That doesn't help at all. The best you can do is to try to point it such that it looks roughly centered on the target and pray. Now there's one feature I haven't mentioned yet, which is the loaded chamber indicator. It's up here on top, and when you have a cartridge in the chamber, it sticks up. It's barely visible, less than 3/4 of a millimeter tall, but conveniently, it's shaped like 2 posts. Because of the lack of sights, I've found myself using it kinda like a rear sight. I figured this was unintentional. I mean, it seems ridiculous that Taurus would go in for the white lines gimmick, but then add a microscopic rear with no matching front that's only visible when the chamber is loaded. But sure enough, the manual calls it out as a feature. Amazing. There are 2 accessories in the box. One is this key, which can be used to disable the gun's trigger mechanism. Not a fan of that sort of thing myself. It can give people a false sense of security compared to better storage solutions like safes. And here's something most owners probably miss. Engaging this lock with the slide back, or with the hammer cocked, can do permanent damage. Whoops. The other accessory is this trigger guard semi-holster thing, which you're meant to tie into your belt loop such that it pops off on the draw. I don't really know how you're meant to draw this gun, with the belt clip being set for such a deep ride in your pants and there being nothing on this entirely smooth gun to really grab onto. But once you do start your draw, having this string yank on the gun just as you're starting to push it out horizontally is not going to make your draw smoother. And tying this to your belt in the morning is way more onerous than popping on a regular holster. What if you're not wearing a belt at all? This is the sort of thing that has people leaving guns at home, or worse yet, carrying without trigger protection. Don't do that. You'll find some documentation online claiming that this holster thing activates the light and laser as it comes off. Not on my copy, it doesn't. At some point in the manufacturing run, Taurus switched the light and laser module from third-party vendor Laserlight to Veridian. This one has the original Laserlight, and I think the auto-activation feature is Veridian only. You can see that my holster thing doesn't have a magnet that the later ones use to enable that function. When you Google, you pretty much only find documentation about the Veridian model, so watch out if you have a Laserlight. They take different batteries. Disassembly is pretty straightforward. Verify it's empty, lock the slide to the rear on an empty mag, remove that mag. Use your fingernail or other non-scratching tool to pull this pin out. Pro tip, try not to pull it out all the way because it's not captive, and when reinserting, its retention spring gets in the way, makes it annoying to put back in. The slide breaks down like most other semi-auto pistols, barrel and spring pop right out. Putting it back together, resist the temptation to pull the slide back all the way, that doesn't accomplish anything. Instead, pull the slide back just slightly, then pop the pin back into place. Shooting the Curve gave me mixed emotions. On the one hand, the recoil impulse is surprisingly pleasant. 380 is a weaker cartridge than 9mm, but it seldom feels like it on account of how snappy the guns often are. This one, being recoil operated rather than blowback, feels quite mild and controllable, the way it should. And while these things don't have a perfect reputation for reliability, mine has run flawlessly. But on the other hand, each shot fired hurts. It's popping my trigger finger hard with every round. The trigger guard is shaped all wrong. It's vertically short, so your trigger finger naturally comes in contact with the bottom of it as you pull. It's quite wide, and towards the back, it's shaped such that there are these two narrow wings on either side that concentrate the forces from any muzzle rise into the bony part of my finger. Ouch. Bonus, the gun kicks shells straight up, often smacking me in the head. But most importantly, I can't stress this enough, there are no sights. I was able to get shots in the vague direction of the target by using the loaded chamber indicator trick, but there's no chance that that would work under adverse conditions. I tried switching to the laser, but it's way off from the factory. There are Allen wrenches included in the box to adjust it, but I didn't bother yet. Shooting it lefty is again a little strange and less comfortable, but basically fine. The gun recoils so mildly that the loss of some contact with the grip isn't that big a deal compared to everything else going on. So who is this gun for? Taurus was clearly marketing this as a carry gun for those who haven't carried much before. If you're worried a gun won't fit nicely in your yoga pants, or you're intimidated by picking out a gun and holster and light and hiding it on your body, the Curve should be an easy, approachable choice. It literally comes with everything you need to carry it, and it's supposed to conceal like nothing else. But that promise doesn't hold up. The lack of sights is inexcusable, the belt clip and trigger guard combos neither convenient nor practical, the shape's concealability is overrated, and worryingly, despite being difficult to use and marketed towards newer shooters, this gun is discouragingly awful to practice with at home. You can't improve a skill without feedback, and this gun gives you none. If you don't have snap caps, you won't be able to practice with the microscopic pseudo-rear sight at all, and you wouldn't want to plan on seeing something that tiny under stressful conditions anyway. You can't count on this laser coming on when you need it, let alone being visible in daylight or at distance or if the threat's wearing a red shirt. So if you're doing realistic dry fire practice without any sights to look at, how do you know whether each rep was good or bad? I think you don't. I think this is a gun that's not viable beyond arm's length. If I only wanted to deter people within arm's length, it'd be cheaper to stop showering. That's it from Gunbelievable on the Taurus Curve. Smash that like button, be sure to subscribe. If I get 1 million subs, I'll sand it flat.